I thought love would save me, but it was the thing that destroyed me the most. I trusted the wrong people with my heart, my family, and my future. And when I finally saw the truth, it was already too late. My name doesn't matter anymore. Not because I forgot it, but because the person I used to be died the day I trusted them completely. I grew up in a house where love always had conditions. If I obeyed, I was good. If I spoke back, I was ungrateful. My family never hit me hard physically, but their words, they cut deeper than any knife. My father used silence as punishment. My mother used comparison as control. I was always not enough, not smart enough, not strong enough, not perfect enough. Still, I tried. I studied hard. I helped at home. I stayed quiet even when it hurt. I told myself, one day they will be proud of me. But that day never came. Then I met him. He felt like escape, like breathing after drowning. He listened to me when no one else did. He called me special when my own family called me average. I didn't realize how dangerous that was, how quickly someone can become your entire world when your world has always been empty. At first, he was perfect. Messages every morning, calls every night, promises that sounded like healing. He told me I was different from everyone else in his life, and for the first time, I believed I mattered. But love like that never stays pure. Slowly, he changed. Or maybe he was always like this, and I was just blind. He started controlling small things: what I wore, who I talked to, why I was online late. He said it was care, but it felt like chains. When I questioned him, he turned cold. When I cried, he said I was too emotional. And every time I tried to leave, he pulled me back with sweet words that erased my anger. And I stayed. Because I had nowhere else to go emotionally. At home, things got worse too. My parents found out about him. Instead of asking how I felt, they asked how I could disgrace them. My mother said I was ruining my future. My father said I was becoming a failure, like people he despised. I was trapped between two worlds, one that controlled me with love, and one that controlled me with shame. I started losing myself slowly. I stopped sleeping properly. I stopped eating regularly. I stopped talking to my friends because he said they didn't care about me like he did. Every part of my life became smaller, tighter, darker. Then came the night everything broke. I saw a message on his phone. It wasn't meant for me. "Don't worry, she still believes everything I say." That one sentence shattered something inside me. My hands shook as I read more. There were other girls, other promises, other lies. I wasn't special. I was just another name in his collection of control. When I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. He laughed, not loudly, just a small, cold laugh. "You're not the only one," he said, "but you're the easiest to keep." Something inside me went silent after that. I didn't scream. I didn't cry in front of him. I just stood there, staring at someone I thought I loved, realizing I never knew him at all. When I went home that night, my mother saw my face and still said, "I told you so." No comfort, no arms, no safety, just judgment. I locked myself in my room and sat on the floor until morning. My phone kept vibrating. His messages, pretending nothing happened. Then my mother knocking, demanding I fix my attitude. Then silence again. That was the moment I understood something painful. I was completely alone, not because nobody was around me, but because nobody truly saw me. And in that silence, something inside me changed. I looked at my reflection in the dark window and didn't recognize myself anymore. My eyes looked tired, empty, almost gone. I whispered to myself, barely hearing my own voice. If this is what love does, then I don't want to be soft anymore. And that's when I made a decision I didn't fully understand yet. I wasn't going to break anymore. I was going to become something else. Something they would never control again. But deep down, I didn't know if I was choosing healing or preparing for something much darker. And that night, as my phone lit up again with his name, I slowly reached for it. Not to forgive him, but to see how far I could go before I finally snapped. I didn't block him. That was my first mistake after the truth came out. Or maybe it was the first step into something darker. The next morning, I acted like nothing had changed. I replied to his messages with short answers. No emotions, no questions. Just enough to keep him comfortable. He didn't even notice the difference. Or maybe he did, and just didn't care. At home, things were just as cold. My mother kept talking about my future like I was already a failure. My father barely looked at me. The silence between us felt heavier than any argument. Every word they said felt like pressure pushing me deeper into something I couldn't escape. "You need to focus on your life," my mother said one evening. I almost laughed. Which life? The one you control, or the one he destroyed? But I didn't say it. I just nodded. That's what I always did. I swallowed everything. Days passed. Then weeks. And slowly, everything started falling apart. I couldn't focus on anything anymore. My mind was always somewhere else, replaying his words, my family's voices, my own thoughts turning against me. I started making mistakes at work, small ones at first, then bigger ones. Until one day, my manager called me in. "You're not yourself lately," he said. I stayed quiet. "We can't keep you like this. It's affecting everything." And just like that, I lost my job. No dramatic moment, no fight, just a simple sentence that erased everything I had worked for. I walked out of the building feeling nothing, not sadness, not anger, just empty. The world outside felt too loud. People were laughing, talking, living their lives like nothing had changed. And I stood there, holding nothing but my bag and the weight of everything I had lost. Love, family, stability, myself. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. Even my tears had left me. That night, I sat alone in my room again, same floor, same silence. But this time, it felt heavier. My phone lit up again. Him. Miss you. I stared at the message for a long time. It was almost funny. How someone could destroy you and still expect access to your heart. I typed something, deleted it, typed again, deleted it again. Then I locked my phone and threw it on the bed. "I hate this," I whispered. But deep inside, I knew something worse. I didn't just hate him, I hated myself for staying, for believing, for allowing it to go this far. That realization hurt more than anything he did. I stood up and looked at the mirror. Same face, but not the same person. I let them do this to me, I said quietly. That was the truth no one wanted to hear. Toxic people exist, but they only stay if you let them. That thought hit me harder than any insult I had ever received. For the first time in my life, I stopped blaming them and started looking at myself. Why did I accept less? Why did I confuse control with love? Why did I stay silent when it was killing me? The answers weren't simple, but one thing became clear. I had no boundaries. I was raised to obey, not to question, to please, not to protect myself. And when someone came into my life offering love, I gave everything, without asking if they deserved it. That was my biggest mistake, not loving him, but losing myself in the process. I sat back down slowly, my thoughts racing. What if I just disappear? The idea came quietly. No more pain, no more expectations, no more pretending, just silence, forever. I closed my eyes. For a moment, it felt peaceful. But then something unexpected happened. A memory, a younger version of me, smiling, laughing, hoping, believing life could be something better. And suddenly, that silence didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt like giving up on that version of me. I can't end like this, I whispered. My voice was shaking now, not from fear, but from something new. Anger, not loud, explosive anger, but deep, quiet anger that sits in your chest and refuses to leave. They don't get to decide who I become, I said. That sentence changed everything. For the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was deciding. I stood up again, this time with purpose. I picked up my phone, opened his messages, and typed, "Do you really think I'm that easy?" I stared at the screen, then hit send. A few seconds later, he replied, "What do you mean?" I smiled slightly, not because I was happy, but because for the first time, I felt control, real control. Not the kind he had over me, but the kind I had over myself. I mean, I typed slowly, "You've been underestimating me." I didn't wait for his reply this time. I turned off my phone, because this wasn't about him anymore. It was about me. That night, I made a decision, not emotional, not impulsive, but cold, clear, final. I wasn't going to beg for love anymore. I wasn't going to chase approval, and I wasn't going to stay weak. If the world taught me anything, it was this. People respect power, not kindness, and I was done being the nice one who got destroyed. I won't stay like this anymore, I said to myself. That sentence echoed in my mind like a promise. But deep inside, there was another truth forming. Something darker, something dangerous. I didn't just want to heal. I wanted them to feel what I felt, every lie, every humiliation, every moment I questioned my worth. I wanted them to face it, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of becoming someone they wouldn't recognize. Because maybe that was exactly who I needed to be. I didn't transform overnight. There was no sudden glow-up, no dramatic moment where everything changed and I became better. That kind of story sounds nice, but it's a lie. Real change is slow, painfully slow. It starts in silence. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't sleep anymore. My mind refused to rest. It kept replaying everything: his laugh, my mother's words, my own reflection that night. So I stopped trying to sleep. Instead, I got up. At first, I didn't know what to do. I just stood there, staring at my room like it was a place I didn't belong to anymore. Then I started small. I cleaned. Not because I cared about the mess, but because it was something I could control. I threw away things I didn't need: old notes, gifts, even the small things he gave me. I paused when I held one of them. A bracelet. He once told me, "This means you're mine." I stared at it for a long time. Then I dropped it into the trash without hesitation. "You don't own me," I whispered. That was the first real step. Not emotional, not dramatic, just quiet detachment. Days turned into routines. I stopped checking his messages. Eventually, I blocked him. Not out of anger, but because I didn't need access to someone who had no value in my life anymore. At home, I stopped reacting. When my mother criticized me, I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just listened and walked away. That confused her more than anything. "You think you're better now?" she snapped one day. I looked at her calmly. "No," I said. "I just stopped needing your approval." The silence after that was different. For the first time, I wasn't the weak one in the room, but the real change wasn't outside. It was inside. I started rebuilding myself piece by piece. I read, I learned, not just about skills or money, but about people, about manipulation, about emotional control, about boundaries. I realized something important. Toxic people don't just hurt you. They study you. They learn your weaknesses, your fears, your needs, and they use them against you. But that also meant something else. If I understood people, I could stop being a victim. I started working again. Small jobs at first. Things no one would notice. Things that didn't matter to anyone else, but mattered to me. Because for the first time, I wasn't doing it to prove anything. I was doing it to build something, myself. Slowly, I changed how I looked too. Not for attention, not for revenge, but because I finally saw myself clearly. I cut my hair, changed my style, took care of my body, not perfectly, but consistently. And one day, I caught my reflection again. This time, I didn't look away. I didn't see weakness anymore. I saw control. Weeks turned into months. And then, I saw him again. It wasn't planned. It wasn't dramatic. Just a random moment in a place I almost didn't go to. He looked the same smile, same confidence. But when his eyes met mine, something shifted. He froze. Not because I looked different, but because I felt different. "Hey," he said, walking toward me slowly. I didn't move, didn't smile, didn't react. Just watched him. "I didn't expect to see you," he added. "I know," I replied calmly. That was it. No emotion, no anger. And that made him uncomfortable. "I've been thinking about you," he said, trying to regain control. I tilted my head slightly. Why? He hesitated. That small pause told me everything. He wasn't used to this version of me. I mean, we had something, he said. I smiled slightly. Not warmly, not kindly. Just enough to show I understood the game. No, I said softly. You had control. I had confusion. That hit him. I saw it in his eyes. For the first time, he didn't know what to say. You've changed, he muttered. Yes, I replied. I stopped being easy. Silence. Heavy silence. The kind that says more than words ever could. He tried one more time. You're acting like you don't care. I looked at him directly. I don't. And that was the truth. Not forced, not fake, just real. That moment wasn't loud. No shouting, no dramatic exit. But it was powerful. Because I didn't need revenge anymore. I had already taken back everything he stole from me. My attention, my energy, my identity. But life wasn't done yet. Because the real twist came later. I found out something unexpected. He wasn't doing well. The other girls? Gone. The same patterns he used on me eventually destroyed everything around him. People started seeing through him, and suddenly, he wasn't in control anymore. For a brief moment, I felt something dangerous. Satisfaction. A quiet, dark satisfaction. This is what you deserve. But then, something else followed. Clarity. Revenge doesn't always look like hurting someone back. Sometimes, it's watching them fall without touching them. And realizing you don't need to be part of their destruction. Because they were already broken. I thought I would feel powerful in that moment. But instead, I felt distant. Like I had outgrown something that once controlled me. That was the real glow-up. Not success, not appearance, but emotional distance. Still, I won't lie. A part of me had changed permanently. I wasn't soft like before. I didn't trust easily. And I didn't love blindly. Because once you see how people can destroy you, you never unsee it. I walked away that day without looking back. Not because I was strong, but because I finally understood something important. Closure doesn't come from them, it comes from you. And as I stepped into my new life, I knew one thing for sure. I had won. But I was about to learn. Winning doesn't always feel the way you expect. Winning felt quieter than I imagined. No applause, no dramatic ending. No moment where everything suddenly made sense. Just silence. The kind of silence that comes after a storm, when everything is still standing, but nothing feels the same anymore. Months passed. My life looked better from the outside. I had a stable job again. I built routines that kept me grounded. I spoke less, but when I did, people listened. I wasn't the person who needed validation anymore. I became someone people couldn't easily read. And somehow, that made me feel safe. At home, things changed too. Not because my family became loving, but because I stopped participating in the same patterns. When my mother tried to criticize me, I didn't react. When my father used silence, I didn't chase it. I stopped trying to fix relationships that were never built on understanding. One night, my mother said something familiar. "You've become cold." I looked at her, calm. "No," I replied. "I just learned where to stop giving." She didn't respond. And for the first time in my life, I didn't wait for one. That was the new me, detached, controlled, unreachable. But there was a truth I couldn't ignore. Late at night, when everything was quiet, I felt it. The emptiness, not the painful kind from before, but something deeper. Like a space inside me that used to hold warmth, and now held nothing. I told myself this was peace. But sometimes, it didn't feel like it. I stopped trusting people easily. Even when someone was kind, I questioned it. Even when someone stayed, I waited for them to leave. It wasn't fear, it was expectation. Because experience had taught me one thing. People don't always stay who they pretend to be. I became careful, too careful, and slowly, I started pushing people away before they could get close. Not because they were toxic, but because I didn't want to feel that kind of pain again. That was the cost no one talks about. You protect yourself so well that nothing reaches you anymore. Not even good things. One evening, I sat alone in a quiet cafe, watching people around me. A couple laughing, friends sharing stories, small, simple moments. And I realized something uncomfortable. I had learned how to survive, but I forgot how to feel. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me open it. It was him. I know I don't deserve a reply, but I'm sorry. I stared at the message for a long time. Months ago, this would have meant everything to me. Now, it felt small, almost meaningless, not because the pain disappeared, but because I had outgrown the need for his apology. Still, I read it again, and I asked myself something honest. If I reply, what am I really looking for? Closure? Validation? Or just proof that I mattered? I closed my eyes for a moment, and then I saw it clearly. I didn't need anything from him anymore, not even revenge, not even an apology, because the truth was, he didn't define my worth. He never did. And neither did my family. That realization felt different, not powerful, not dramatic, just real. I typed a reply, not emotional, not angry, just simple. I hope you become a better person, but I'm not part of your story anymore. I stared at the message, then I sent it. And for the first time, I felt something close to peace. Not empty, not cold, just steady. I didn't block him out of anger. I let him go out of clarity. There's a difference. That night, I walked home slowly. The air felt lighter. Or maybe I finally did. I realized something important. Revenge isn't always destroying someone. Sometimes, it's refusing to let them have access to you ever again. That's real power. But even then, there's always a cost. I lost the version of me who loved without fear. The version of me who believed people easily. The version of me who gave everything without hesitation. And maybe I'll never fully get that person back. But I gained something else. self-respect, boundaries, awareness, and a kind of strength that doesn't need to prove itself to anyone. I stopped trying to be loved by everyone and started choosing who deserves to stay. That's the kind of justice no one can take from you. Weeks later, I stood in front of a mirror again. Same place, same reflection. But this time, I didn't feel lost. I didn't see a victim, and I didn't see someone broken. I saw someone who survived their own mistakes and learned from them. My love wasn't the mistake, I said quietly. Giving it to the wrong people was. And that truth didn't hurt anymore. It freed me. Because now I knew better. I knew when to walk away. I knew when to stay silent. And most importantly, I knew when to choose myself. Not every battle needs revenge. Not every ending needs closure from others. Sometimes, the real victory is walking away with your self-respect still intact. Because in the end, I didn't win against them. I finally chose myself.